everybody? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, joined by my friend and co-host Aiden. And look, the Yankees right now, they are a wagon. The Yankees have the best ERA in baseball. They have the best WRC plus in baseball. They took a series split against the Mariners. And look, I don't think the whole theme of this episode is victory lapping a series split with the Mariners. I think we could all talk and be honest with ourselves. They should have won the first game of that series. That was a disappointing and heartbreaking game to lose. But what they're able to do is rebound after really two kind of like get punched in the face kind of losses and pick up two more wins. Now, are we going to go all WFAN and tell you that the Mariners are like the second best team in the AL and you should go out and beat them? No, like I think so many people put some random importance on this series that I couldn't really understand. It's not as if the Mariners are in your division, no disrespect to the Mariners, but you know, you'll figure out who they are after the deadline. But the big thing today was Luis Gil, man. I mean, after a lot of offseason talk about the pitching rotation and kind of whether the Yankees had the talent or not. And look, there were concerns. Like Luis Gil, I mean, he topped out at like 108 innings pitched in his professional career in a season. But what we were consistent about is telling you that the talent, and that's the big thing here, the talent was always good enough for this rotation to figure something out, right? There was a lot of doom and gloom around this team. There are a lot of people talking about how Luis Gil couldn't be a capable fifth starter. If I'm not mistaken, I think the exact quote would be, can't be a fifth starter on a championship caliber team, that kind of stuff. And I would agree with that take, actually. He probably can't be the fifth starter on a championship caliber team because he's the best pitcher on the best team in the American League. Like, I mean, right now, if the Yankees were to get Gerrit Cole back and the postseason were to begin tomorrow, who is the game two starter? It's gotta be Luis Gil. It doesn't matter who he faces. It doesn't matter what lineup he faces. It doesn't matter who's up at the plate. His stuff is unhittable. He's starting to finally figure out the command. But as much as I could talk about Luis Gil's greatness and all that stuff, Aiden has been pushing this for really since the start of spring training. Aiden, how you doing today, my friend? I imagine you're doing great. Tell us a little bit about Luis Gil and what's made him so dominant this year.
Ryan, they laughed at us. They laughed at both of us. They laughed at me. They laughed at you. They laughed at Alex. They laughed at Sam. They laughed at all of us. I was sitting here after Luis Gil had that start in spring training against the Phillies. He was throwing that awesome changeup. It was a revelation. And I was sitting here saying, Luis Gil is going to be a good fifth starter for the Yankees. I was saying he could be the fifth starter for the Yankees in December. People laughed at me. I was saying it all offseason. People were laughing at me. Up until opening day, up until Luis Gil's first start of the season, his second, third start, people were laughing at me, Ryan. And let me just read off because, I mean, it's so funny. They were laughing at both of us, Ryan. This is really funny to me, though. Luis Gil, 10 starts into the season, 55.1 innings pitched. 2.11 ERA, that's third in the American League. 2.92 FIP, that's 10th in the American League. 1.5 FWAR, that's tied for 7th in the American League among starting pitchers. 203 BABIP, that's first in the American League. 70 strikeouts, that's 5th in the American League. He has 5 quality starts, a 55 ERA minus, that's 5th in the American League. A 141 batting average against, that's first in the MLB. 31.7 K percentage, that's 5th in the MLB, 3rd in the AL. 1.01 whip, that's 9th in the American League, and a 26.9. Actually, I don't know what that stat is, but you get the gist. I could keep going. Statistically, this is one of the best starting pitchers in not just the American League, but baseball. In all of baseball. The guy has a legitimate all-star campaign right now. I don't know how you move this guy into the bullpen when Gerrit Cole gets back because he is just straight up dominant. He has 115 stuff plus that'll probably update and be higher when you check Fangraphs tomorrow. He flat out has some of the best stuff in baseball. And now coming into the season, there were, of course, those concerns about, his command and his, he walks a lot of guys. He fixed that. He started to fix that. Ryan, I think you talked about he started closing his shoulders more. Gerrit Cole is like his professor. He's like the second pitching coach on the Yankees. And the tandem of Matt Blake and Gerrit Cole, one of the best pitchers of our generation, being there to coach a young guy with the repertoire of Luis Gil is just a match made in heaven. The guy has a legitimate all-star campaign. And you just said, Ryan, who starts game 2 after Garrett Cole? As of right now, Luis Gil is the second starter in the playoff rotation. They were right, Ryan. Luis Gil isn't a fifth starter on a championship caliber operation. He's a 2-starter. All right? He could be a 1-starter perhaps as it currently stands. I get it. It's May. It's early to victory lap, but we are a third into the season. Gil has made 10 starts. That's a third into the season, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. I just think it's funny, Ryan. They laughed at us. And you know who else they laughed at us about, Ryan? They laughed at us about the rest of the rotation, too. They laughed at us about Carlos Rodon. He's been solid. They said he was washed. They said he was finished. He was overpaid. He's been solid. You can rely on Carlos Rodon right now. They laughed at us about Marcus Stroman, said he wasn't going to be good, say he would barely be above average. They said his ERA in Yankee Stadium was too high. He's been solid. He's been reliable. He has a ton of aura. The aura is off the charts. Forget his statistics. The vibes he brings to this team is unbelievable. He's going on social media, posting nothing but love for all of his teammates. Then let's move on to Clark Schmidt. They laughed at us about Clark Schmidt too. Can't go through the third time in the order. Maybe he still has a little bit of trouble with that, but the guy has a 2.59 ERA right now. I remember the Clark Schmidt is my fifth starter campaign, Ryan. I remember that. And right now, he's a really solid pitcher for the Yankees. They laughed at us about Nestor Cortez, too, saying he was washed, even though he had a bad season last year because he was kind of pitching through injury. He's been really solid. He has what? What's his ERA? It's the highest on the team at, let's see. He has the highest ERA on the team at 3.29. 3.29. That's a great ERA. And that's the highest in the pitching rotation. Not to mention, the guy routinely pitches 7 innings. He's routinely pitching deep into the game. Ryan, they laughed at us about Luis Gil. They laughed at us about this rotation. And what happened? Luis Gil is one of the best pitchers in the American League right now. The Yankees have probably the best rotation in baseball, if not at least top 3. I think it's absolutely hilarious, Ryan, that they laughed at us.
I think there's just such a big difference too between doubt and counting out, right? There is always reason to be skeptical with any unit, any team, any pitching staff, any lineup, whatever you want to call it. Last year, it felt like this was a really good team. There's no way they're gonna struggle or miss the playoffs, and they missed the playoffs, right? Bad things can happen to a talented roster, right? But there's a really big difference between doubt and just counting the team out. There were so many talks about the future of the team is screwed. They have to blow it up. I'm going to give you a crazy thing that people overlook about the rotation. 3 of the 5 pitchers in the rotation was either acquired at the minor league level, whether that's Luis Gil, who the Yankees traded for the Minnesota Twins back in 2018 or 2019. Then you have Schmidt and Cortez, who were drafted by the Yankees. Those 3 pitchers have combined for a 2.70 ERA across and a 1.07 whip, a 200 average across their 31 combined starts this season. Again, like you mentioned, long season to go. We'll wait and see how that group gets better, if they get better, how they adjust. Because look, the league's going to adjust to Luis Gil. The league's going to adjust to Nestor Cortez. The league's going to adjust to Clark Schmidt. Adjustments. This is an adjustments game. We kind of saw it with Volpe to start the year, red hot, and then the league adjusts to him. And we've seen him kind of fight back against those adjustments, and he's on a 16-game hitting streak right now. That's another player who's a key part of this team. I know Wells hasn't hit as much as I think we hoped he would, but the defense has been really good. And I think the defense being really good and the way he's hitting for a catcher, overall, he has been a successful player at the major league level. That is 5 players that you have developed that are key parts of this team. And obviously, the 6th player that the first guy that should come to mind when you're talking about the recent player development is, of course, Aaron Judge, right? And, it's interesting. We had Andy Martino on for an interview yesterday, and the biggest thing that you can take away from the Yankee way, among a lot of really interesting topics, is just how good of a leader Aaron Judge is. This isn't some social media, some fake crap. It's interesting. Martino has talked about, trying to figure out if it was all, Fugazi, or if it was just an act, right? Is Aaron Judge just an act? It's not. There are so many people who have nothing but good to say about Aaron Judge. And then, of course, it is really crazy that there was even any dialogue about Aaron Judge not being good anymore, or not even being great anymore. I mean, what do I have to say about Aaron Judge that hasn't already been said? I think is a fair question to ask, right? Like, the guy has been a godsend. The guy is one of the best hitters I'll ever see in my lifetime. The guy is going to waltz into the Hall of Fame if he remains remotely healthy for the rest of his contract. And specify remotely healthy, not dominant, not great, not live up to the contract, not do anything other than just kind of stay healthy. That's really it. He's that good. Juan Soto, obviously, I mean, I can't believe people thought the Yankees were trading away their future in pitching. Do you remember that conversation? The Yankees traded away their entire pitching depth to get Juan Soto. They have the best
laughed at us. They laughed at us.
The problem is, I think, there are so many people who hate the idea of bringing any sort of optimism regarding Yankee conversations. And it's so exhausting. It's so, like, it's got to be exhausting for people to go through a season and every conversation you have about the Yankees is, yeah, but this, yeah, but that, yeah, but this. There's a difference between the Yankees winning, throwing a banner up for being in first place in May, right? Like, we're 35-17. Great. Whoop-de-doo. I'm not really that big on, like, celebrating, records in May. I don't really care. It's good that it's obviously great they're off to a good start. But the big thing for me is that people just assumed it was impossible for this team to click. It was impossible that the Yankees knew what they were doing. It was impossible that a guy, and, I think Brian Cashman, there's a lot of reasons to criticize. There's a lot of things to disagree with. But the guy has done this for 30 years. He has never had a losing season. He is one of the most respected executives in all of baseball, right? I know this episode kind of comes off as this just giant fanboying of the organization, but it's really just an important conversation to have of, it's got to be tiring to be pessimistic 24/7. This team, they could collapse in the postseason. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I really don't. But I'm not going to get caught up in, oh, but they could collapse. Oh, but they're we've seen, 2022, they went to the ALCS. Like, do you know what choking is? Like, I don't know if people understand what utter and just disaster failure looks like. It's not making it to the ALCS. It's more like, and I think you can speak to this as a Jets fan, I can speak to this as a Giants fan. It's giving Daniel Jones $160 million. It's Aaron Rodgers plays 2 snaps and the team doesn't get to the postseason. That's what utter and like, we don't know what utter and just years of disgrace and failure looks or feels like. We know, like, 2013 and 2023 and 2015 or 2014, excuse me. That's what we know, right? But, like, this team is clearly very good. This team has been good every single year I've been alive, essentially. I'm 19. You're 20. Like, I just, it's got to be crazy. Like, yeah, 21. Dude, how many people for the entire offseason just been, this team can't be good. This team stinks. This team's no better than the third place team. This team's 4th place. This team has no future. This team should blow it up. All of these unbelievable talking points. Luis Seal's their SP5, right? What a beautiful world we live in if he's our SP5. One of these 5 starters are going to be our starting pitcher 6. One of these 5 guys, when Garrett Cole comes back, is SP6. That's crazy to me. Aiden, this is depth we haven't had in a while, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ryan, you're right. Like, we really have not had depth like this in a while. And as you were saying before, I just find it funny that people thought the Yankees were going to acquire Juan Soto, replace their entire outfield, revamp their analytics department, get a new hitting coach, and they thought the Yankees were going to get worse, or like they were only going to get 3 more wins, like an increase of 3 wins from last season. No. Like, what were people thinking, Ryan? Like, people were like, oh, well, Juan Soto's not going to solve your third base problem and your starting pitching problem. Your starting pitcher is just not all of a sudden going to be elite. Well, it is. Our starting pitching is elite now, and third base hasn't really been much of a problem, even though DJ LeMahieu is out. But anyway, like you just said, like, yeah, the depth is crazy. I mean, Ryan, Jason Dominguez is like an MLB player. Like, if he played a full season this year, he would be likely a legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate or winning Rookie of the Year. And the guy is going to be sitting in the minor leagues for, the foreseeable future, because the outfield outside of Trent Grisham is just too damn good. Alex Verdugo looks like a completely different player with the Yankees. He's lifting the ball. He's hitting bombs. He along with Stroman, like I said before, vibes are off the charts. The aura is off the charts. Aaron Judge, what is there to say about him that hasn't already been said? Like, the guy is having maybe one of the best months in a career ever. He's 25 barrels this month. I think I saw, like, since May 4th, here, I'll pull it up. Since May 4th when he got ejected, 429 average, a 1.089 slugging percentage. That's ridiculous. A 1.662 OPS and 9 home runs. Like, I saw somewhere since a certain date he has 11 singles, 11 doubles, and 9 home runs in the month of May. Do you understand how ridiculous that is? We're seeing, like, this is dominance we're not going to see for a very, very long time. And then you move on to Juan Soto, and what is there to be said about him that hasn't already been said? I mean, it's every single day you're like, all right, yeah, he just earned another $10 million on his contract. He hit 2 home runs last night, and they were opposite field home runs, and it seemed like he kind of just flicked them out. The guy's an unreal hitter. The value he's brought to the team is just, you can't quantify it, really. I mean, seeing yesterday, like, in the middle of the game, he was going over and, like, talking to the bullpen. I think it was between pitching changes. And, like, he's just friends with everybody on the team. Like, he just brings a positive vibe to the team. Even to the stadium, too. He was signing autographs in the middle of the game. He's already a fan favorite, Ryan. I've seen lifelong, like, career-long Aaron Judge fans say that Juan Soto is now their favorite player. And he's, like, kind of up in the running for my favorite player on the Yankees right now, next to Aaron Judge. Like, the guy's unbelievable, and I don't know what dollar amount the Yankees or anyone can really put on him. Even just going more on what the value he brings to the team. In the beginning of the season, when Oswaldo Cabrera, of all people, were tearing the ball up, like tearing the field up, hitting unbelievable, they asked Oswaldo Cabrera, you know, like, what's been the difference in why, like, you're hitting so much better, why your approach at the plate has been so much better? And his answer was Juan Soto. He said he watched Juan Soto in the batting cages and during the games and was just taking mental notes. And it worked. The guy is, we already know, he's a generational player. He's on pace to be a Hall of Famer. You got to have him for at least the next 10 years. We want this guy to retire in a Yankee uniform. Hal wants him to retire in a Yankee uniform. But yeah, the outfield depth is just unbelievable. The infield has been, you know, pretty solid. I think we could see some improvement at third base, but DJ LeMahieu is on his way back, and you'll see what he can bring to the table. I would like Anthony Rizzo to be a little more consistent, but, like, I really don't have any more complaints about him. The only depth that's, like, kind of lacking is in the bullpen. Like, you need a couple bullpen arms at the deadline, but Tommy Kahnle's on the way. Scott Effross is on the way. Lou Trevino is on the way. The Yankees just have unreal depth right now. It didn't even talk about the rotation depth yet. I mean, this is one of the best rosters we've had in years, Ryan. And I know it's May. It's early. I'm not trying to victory lap, but this is a really good team, and I think Yankee fans have all the reason to be excited about this team and all the reason to think that, hey, maybe this is the year. Why not us?
I mean, look, the way I look at it right now is, you know, the Yankees have played, I mean, the real big thing was you wanted to survive the part of the season without Garrett Cole. They didn't survive. I mean, they're dominating. They're thriving, right? Like, they're dominating without Garrett Cole, right? So, you know, guys are going to slow down, right? Like, do I think Clark Schmidt's going to have a 2.59 ERA at the end of the season? I mean, I will say no pretty confidently, but, I mean, you know, hold out for anything, right? But honest, like honest to God, right? You know, like, I mean, I'm just going to be honest here, right? I don't think, you know, I don't think Luisio's going to hold a 2.11 ERA. That would be like a Jacob deGrom season, right? So, you know, you do expect some sort of natural regression for the pitching staff, but when that happens, you get Garrett Cole back. That's huge. And this feels a lot different from 2022 in the sense that it feels like the roster has more talent, right? Like, it feels like, okay, it's not just the Aaron Judge show, or, you know, on the pitching side of things, it never felt like Garrett Cole was, like, back all year. He had that just weird stretch where he just kept giving up home runs. And then Nestor, like your best starter, kind of got hurt and fell apart towards the end of the season. Granted, that could happen to the Yankees. And also, kind of the big overlooming thing here, their deadline produced them literally nothing. Montas was a dud and got hurt. Benintendi was not a dud, but he got hurt. Efros got hurt. Like, Lou Trevino was your only big-time deadline addition, right? So, they didn't get the natural reinforcements that you expect to get while trading away depth, right? Like, while you traded away some pieces. So, if this year's team, it really comes down to, at this point, in my opinion, if Brian Cashman identifies the issues with this team, that, whatever issues they end up being, which I think right now it's the bullpen and maybe the infield, and he can correctly address them, this team looks pretty unstoppable, right? Like, it just comes down to whether deadline additions make a difference or not. We won't know until that time comes. We're still way too far away from the deadline to even know who's definitively available or not. But if you ask me, they're in a really good spot. They have a good farm system, too, to deal out of. Like, it's not like they don't have talent to trade from. They've got a pool of guys to deal from. They can wheel and deal a little bit here and go all in the Juan Soto year. Again, they traded, in the Juan Soto deal, they traded 4 young pitchers. Well, I guess King isn't quote-unquote a young pitcher, but you kind of get what I'm getting at here. They kept the 2 best ones in the organization, in Heelan and Schmidt. Thorpe, I would say, is... Thorpe, I still like Michael King a lot. I still think the world of Drew Thorpe, but they somehow didn't trade the 2 most impactful young pitchers in their organization. It's unbelievable. Like, Matt Blake, Sam Breen, they deserve an unbelievable amount of credit. I don't know, what can you say about Matt Blake and Sam Breen, like, at this point? Like, it doesn't matter who you give them. It really doesn't. They'll find a way, man. This organization, that's just what a good organization does. You know what it's kind of like? I've always been envious of them for this. This kind of has like a Rays feel to it where it's just like, it doesn't matter what their team has. It doesn't matter who's on their roster. They're going to pitch, and they're going to pitch their tails off. So, one more guy I want to shout out here. Dude, Luke Weaver, where the hell did he come from? Right? I know he gave up a home run yesterday, so maybe it's not great timing, but dude, where the hell did he come from? It's just so many unlikely heroes in this pitching staff, and it's sustainable success. It's not like, Luis Seal, where early in the year it's like a 3-something ERA, but he's got like a 20-something% walk rate. You're like, this can't hold up. Luke Weaver, it's like, yeah, the guy's striking out 30% of batters, basically. Of course it can hold up. It's unbelievable. Like, this pitching staff, you got to start dreaming about, like, where things go from there. Aiden, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but, I'm just in awe.
I got one more guy who I want to give his flowers to, and especially because we were talking about the depth in the organization. I know Alex gave him his flowers the other day too. The depth at the catching position has been great. Like, Austin Wells has been great. The Trevino-Wells platoon has been great, but I just want to read the last 7 games for Jose Trevino. The guy has been unbelievable to start the season. He certainly has surpassed my expectations. I didn't really expect him to be a huge contributor this far into the season already. And I was kind of like, I want to lean more towards Wells being like a full-time starter and then Trevino as your backup, which in retrospect was crazy for me to say because that's a platinum glover. And in his last 7 games, he has 190 WRC plus, a 438 WOBA, a 714 slug, a 318 OBP. He has 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. The guy's been great over his last 7 games, and really for the whole season, I just wanted to give him his flowers real quick, but it just adds on to the sentiment that the Yankees' depth around the diamond is really, really great. You really could not, there's not much to complain about so far. And I said this the other day, Ryan, I feel so spoiled right now. We're a third into the season, but I feel so spoiled that it's just like the Yankees just had their worst season in 30 years. They went 82-80 and just had their worst season in 30 years. The worst season I've seen as a 21-year-old. And the very next year, they come out swinging as a just completely dominant baseball team with probably the most dominant duo in Juan Soto and Aaron Judge that we've seen in God knows how long. So that's just what I wanted to add at the end here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I guess the last thing that I think fans are going to want to see is them being the Orioles, right? And, I think that's right? Like that's you know, that's fair. I do want to see the Yankees beat the Orioles. That would be great, you know. But end of the day, like they played 4 times, and you know they didn't get the job done in 3 of the 4 games. I'm excited to see how they play them the next time they play them. And I will say this as well, you know, this West Coast trip, I know that the teams on their docket aren't like insanely difficult, but it is a West Coast trip, so you kind of amplify the difficulty, like that kind of thing, right? Where it's like, yeah, San Diego's like around a 500 team, but you know, it's San Diego on the road, and it's a West Coast trip, and you didn't get an off day, that kind of thing. You know, it's an increased level of difficulty, and they've got some dogs pitching. You know, I think it's Cease, Darvish, Cease, and then Musgrove. So you know, it's a pretty tough slate. So the Yankees, hopefully, we'll see how their offense performs. I actually was really impressed with the offense this week, considering who they faced, right? You know, you get Castillo, Wu, Gilbert, and Miller, and the only guy who really diced you up was Wu. First off, I mean, that makes Brian Wu, I think, even more impressive. But we'll see how they perform this weekend. They get the Angels after that. That's a series where I don't care if it's the West Coast. You've got to beat them up. You know, we'll probably talk a little bit more about the Mariners series tomorrow. We'll see where that goes. But in terms of really where the Yankees are at right now, you know, let's just take belt to ass. Like, we've been taking belt to ass all of May, right? Like, you know, Judge took, you know, I know they have the belt in the locker room. Judge isn't even wearing the belt. He's taking off the belt every game. He's just snapping that thing. He's snapping that thing. He's beating the crap out of some pitchers right now, man. He's averaging 100 miles per hour in terms of his exit velocity since being ejected. 100 miles per hour. That is the average exit velocity on an Aaron Judge batted ball. I saw this crazy stat. He's barreling like 53% of batted balls in the month of May. What? You know what I mean? The guy has 9 home runs since being ejected. He was ejected on May 4th. He wasn't even ejected. He was ejected 17 games ago. 17 games, 9 home runs. You can get this type of you can get this type of like MVP level production from Soto and Judge for the rest of the season. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'll take a 150 WRC plus from Judge. I'll take the 150. I don't. Dude, something bad has to happen for him to drop to 150. Something real bad's gonna have to happen. It's unbelievable, but no, man, this team's great. I'm glad that you shouted out some more of the depth guys, because the depth, I mean, it's so important for this team. Jose Trevino, what a ball player, what an influence he's been on Wells and the pitching staff. But let's know what you guys think in the comment section below about this team right now. They're rolling, right? Like, this is a really damn good Yankee team. You know, is this the 2022 Yankees all over again, or is this maybe a better Yankee team? We'll have to wait and see and find out. But you guys can let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. You guys can also check us out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. We have shorts, podcasts, content, clips, all that stuff for you guys. You guys can also turn on the notification bell if you want to get updates on that stuff. All that stuff is free. Subscribe, do everything of that nature. You can follow us on Twitter. Our ats are above our heads. So if you're either a Yankee fan and you just want to join in on the victory lapping with us and kind of dunk on some people, you know where to find us. If you're a hater and you're waiting for our downfall, hey, I'm inviting you to also, have your opportunity to victory lap, potentially. I hope you don't have to, but, that kind of thing. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. Aiden, thank you for coming on for today. And everybody, we'll see you guys. Let's go Yankees. Peace out.
Perfect.